It is your PrisonPlanet.tv memberships that fund so much of what we do here on this operation. And then we're more than happy for the TV show after it's aired live, then be leaked out onto the web to tens of millions of people. That's our goal. Ladies and gentlemen, it is Wednesday, the 22nd day of August, 2012. We're going to be live here for the next 3 hours, and we have just got so much incredible news to cover. The TSA is showing up now on more street corners. TSA rifles through bags, conducts pat-downs at Paul Ryan event. They're now showing up, ladies and gentlemen, at train stations, bus stations, highways. They're now showing up at school proms in places like New Mexico. It is all off the chart what's happening. We've got so much news. It's just crazy federal goons out of their jurisdiction that aren't even sworn or bonded, violating the Fourth Amendment that even police can't do. God help us, this is so horrible. Steve Watson has an article on that, and I saw that earlier today, and it hit me like a ton of bricks, and then I've kind of forgotten about it. And then I'm just sitting here looking at computer screens, scrolling through headlines of Infowars.com, and a lot of times I'll be sitting there while a guest is talking or something's going on. They'll walk in and drop some new news in front of me, and I just go into a tailspin. And I was thinking about that today. How do I deal with this? How do you deal with this? You've got engineered economic collapse. You've got open calls for giant wars in Syria and with Iran. You've got the police being trained to basically see the American people as their enemy. We've got incredibly immoral global mega corporations running our lives who are totally ruthless. And it's just getting crazier and crazier and crazier. So we're going to go over Steve Watson's report on that front. Very, very chilling, and there's photos and videos of it. Government agents moving out of airports near the streets. And again, I told you 10 years ago this was coming, but it's actually happening. It's so evil. And the Texas legislature tried to stop it, and the feds threatened an armed blockade, and it wasn't even really news. It was in the news, but, oh, we'll put F-16s in the air to shoot down aircraft that come into your state. I mean, just such terrorist. So that article's up at Infowars.com and PrisonPlanet.com. Supporters fear Facebook Marine being disappeared. The guy that talked about 9/11 truths, they came and grabbed him and drug him away. There's video of that. Man kicked off a flight over anti-TSA shirt. Yeah, you don't have First Amendment. And what do you think this is, America? The MF Global Magical Mystery Tour, again, federal court ruling that they can take your private bank accounts. That's just the way it is. Continuing here, we're going to get to a whole plethora of important news. And then I told you that this was coming. This is from Reuters, because to a great extent, DARPA is headed up by MIT. And MIT said, first time I read it about 15 years ago, in the future, you'll have smart meters that run all the appliances in your house and track you. And all the cars will have satellite tracker boxes that actually control the car. And that basically robots will run and drive everything that are pre-programmed and controlled by the globalist. Well, here it is. U.S. testing talking cars to avoid crashes, congestion, and the things track you and control you. So, and then if you're against this, they say, oh, you're a Luddite. You're against technology. No, I like technology. It's the globalists are designing all of this and selling it to us under one name, but we're paying for all of the backdoor tech and tracking systems that are really meant to enslave us. Okay, it's a total surveillance grid. It's a hellish system. We have to make a decision as citizens, as consumers, to vote with our dollars and vote with our feet and say no, 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 no. We'll be right back. Huge amounts of news and your phone calls. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us in defense of liberty and resistance to tyranny. I am Alexander Emmerich Jones of Austin, Texas, broadcasting worldwide. Our news websites are Infowars.com, PrisonPlanet.com, and we're streaming video of the radio show at PrisonPlanet.tv. If you're a radio listener and hear me say, put this up on screen, let's play that clip, let's do that, it just adds an added level of documentation. I started doing this, taping the radio show, and it was live, and then airing it on local cable access because people wouldn't believe me when I would have an Associated Press article that said the Federal Reserve had been caught shipping in, 3 tons of pure cocaine into San Antonio. I would read a headline like that, and people wouldn't believe it. Or I'd read an article out of Newcastle, PA, where a man yelled back at a police dog that was in a Walmart parking lot that was barking at him, so he was arrested for assaulting an officer verbally. People didn't believe that when I was on the radio. So I started Infowars.com in 1997. It's already been on the air a few years because people didn't believe articles I was reading. I would go down to the local periodical news shop. It was called News. One half of the store was periodicals from all over the country. The other half was porn. But just in 1995, 96, most of the internet didn't have a lot of news on it. They had like the Drudge Report and stuff that would link to reports, or he'd write about reports, but mainstream news didn't even really have websites then that had much news. So you'd have to, I'd go to Barnes & Noble sometimes. They had a small periodical area, but it wasn't updated like News, a local place in Austin. I would go in there every day. So I had a 6-day-a-week radio show by 1997. And the point is, I would go and clip out all these articles and come on air and cover it, and people would just say, oh, that's not true. So I started scanning them in and started doing things like that at Infowars.com, and that's how it was born. And so that's why we stream video. And now, of course, most talk shows, they started 10 years ago having a webcam or something, but we have a 5-camera shoot in here and so much more. So that's why it's important to become members of PrisonPlanet.tv, because then you can see the daily radio show and the nightly news show and all the films and 17 years of material that we've uploaded up on the site. We've had PrisonPlanet.tv for 9.5 years now. I digress, though. That is not what I meant to get into here at the start of the broadcast. Incredible news that we're going to be breaking down on so many fronts. Just when you thought you'd heard it all with the TSA is now at campaign events. TSA rifles through bags, conducts pat-downs at Paul Ryan event. So they're now at Santa Fe proms. By the way, people won't believe that. Type in TSA at Judge Rules TSA must be at Santa Fe prom. They're now popping up in Dallas, San Antonio, and Houston. I'm told by police sources that the next few months they'll be here in Austin. The Army, I didn't get it on tape, but I talked to a police officer friend of mine up in Temple last week, ran another checkpoint on the highway. We've gotten it on tape twice, but this time we didn't get it on tape. So that's all going on. It's nice to have Army checkpoints 200 miles from the border. It's just they're really ratcheting things up. We've got robot cars to take over. You won't be allowed to drive your own cars soon. We've got just an absolute blitz of information, and no guest today until the last 30 minutes. It's funny I'm mentioning Access TV. Linda Litowsky, who's a nice lady who worked at Access, 30-something years ago, the 40th anniversary of Austin Access Television. You're like, why do I care? This is a national show. I'm saying, why? Some of you are like, why am I covering this? Access Television was born in Austin, Texas, and they're trying to get rid of it. But the real reason we're having her on is just to talk about the fact that they tried to shut it down a few years ago until I discovered the fraud going on, and we got some of the folks to be sent to prison, and then Linda and others who'd been there decades ago were able to come back in and keep it afloat. So I want to talk about Access TV itself, nationwide, still there, still a really good avenue for people to break into media, to get information out, to air films, to air material. where you're going to get an audience that really isn't getting their news from the web. I mean, in a big city like Austin, hundreds of thousands can see your show because they're surfing through basic cable. But in mega cities like New York, I mean, so many careers have been launched in comedy, news, you name it, with access. So many people want to break into media. They go get a degree, they go labor for a decade at a radio station and get laid off, when instead you should start your own YouTube show, you should start your own blog radio show, you should start your, just do it. Do it for the passion and you'll have success. All these other people get into Patriot Media trying to be big stars, and they're not successful because they want immediate success. You have to want to defeat the New World Order. And I know a lot of you do. So you're always asking me to do this or do that or hire you. I don't have the money. But I'm here telling you ways to get involved. So that's in the last 30 minutes of the show. Now, before I launch into news, and believe me, it is a lot here, and I want to talk about military suicides. We've talked about this quite a bit, but I want to really delve into it today. So I'm going to do that at the start of the next hour. I'm going to give the number out in a few minutes and really try to go to your calls early in this hour after I hit a smattering of some of the headlines that we have here. They're bringing in news so fast, making my head spin right now. This is a big issue, though. If you're watching at prisonplanet.tv, I have in my little hands the economic collapse. And today at the end of the show, we will send out an e-copy that you can flip just like a regular magazine or newspaper. I am going to be sending this out for people that sign up for free at Infowars.com/newsletter. You can just go to Infowars.com/newsletter and just put your email in. That's all I got to do. Hit submit. And today at 2 o'clock Central, that's 3 o'clock Eastern, we will send it out to anybody and everybody that has signed up to get a free copy. Now, here is the issue, ladies and gentlemen. We printed 50,000 copies at one printer that were put on the streets of Austin. It'll be the collector's edition with a typo on the cover. I love it. You got to love it. But it's an incredible magazine. So much key information. We were going to print 20,000 copies to put one free in every order for books, videos, T-shirts, stuff at InfoWarsShop.com. And we figured that would be enough for people that wanted to buy them at cost in bulk, people who wanted them in their orders. Didn't happen. They all sold out last night. They all sold out. 20,000 copies, gone. Boom. 20,000. Bam. So, I knew there was a hunger for this because I had a hunger for it. If I have a hunger for it, you have a hunger for it. Because we're all the same. I mean, we're just humans that love freedom. I got your number. You got my number. We're on the same page. Doesn't it feel good? 20,000, bam, sold. So I don't know what to print. Do I print 20,000 more? 50,000 more? They're going to print them today. They're going to print them today. So we'll have them. So we're keeping the order stuff up there. If you want to order the new magazine, I'm making the executive decision. We're going to print 20,000 copies more, and that's it. Okay, 20,000 copies more, and that's it. And I did just raise the price a couple dollars on each bulk order because I did the math today. The computers can do it. We lost money because I just kind of, they said yesterday, what do we put it in the cart? We've been asking you for a week. And I said, this number sounds good. That number sounds good. But after, but we factor in, on a 100 order or a 50 order or whatever, we factor in, what the shipping is. 100 of them is like 15 pounds. And I guess I miscalculated a bit because we're actually losing money on some of them. So I've upped them all, a 10 packs, not $9.95, it's $14.95. And then, we've upped them all a little bit just because we cannot even deal with it. We're going to have to probably hire 3-4 more shipping people part-time or well, not part-time, full-time, but just as temporary, to be technical, just to get all these out. We've kind of created a crisis here. So that's why I'm saying I'm printing 20,000 more, and that's it. When it sells out, and undoubtedly it will, that's it. Because I've got to make major changes, break down the numbers, look at it, to be able to even handle this. I mean, this is going big right now. 20,000, bam, in less than 12 hours. Bam, gone. Gone. 20,000, gone. So we're going to print 20,000 more. They were in there asking me seconds before I went live. 20,000 more, and that's it, because that's all we can handle. That's all we can handle, shipping out to people. It's caused, quite frankly, a disaster. But they're going to stay as late as it takes to get them all out to you. So again, get your orders in now for the InfoWars magazine. I'm going to go to break and come back with all the news, but here's what it covers. The economic collapse. Where does money come from? Rome burned, will we? A brief history of false flag attacks. I mean, it's designed for the mainstream public who is unaware. This is a weapon to wake people up, folks. A brief history of false flag attacks. The shadowy patsy rises again. Bank cartel conquers America. Liberty lovers listed as terrorists by Homeland Security. Obama jobs program. Haunted by Hitler, Gerald Celente article. The Second Amendment, Big Pharma exposed. UN uses China as launching pad for global one-child policy. Genetically modified apples are the newest GMO creation pushed on consumers. Ron Paul article, and just so much more is all here. My message to everybody about print 2.0, because look, print is dying because it's all run by globalists with a bunch of lies, because even globalist mainstream media is dying. Even globalist mainstream media is dying online because no one trusts you, no one likes you. And so, again, if you want to get the magazine, I suggest you order it right now because we're printing 20,000 more, and when they're gone, that's it. 20,000 sold in less than a day. 20,000 are probably going to sell in the next few days. If you want it, you've got to order it now. InfoWarsShop.com. In fact, there are the prices. A 10-pack's $14.95. Scroll down. We've got a 20-pack for $24.95. We've got a 50-pack for $54.95. And we've got a 100-pack for $99.95. You notice the one that went up the much was the 10-pack because the shipping and handling, it ends up, that's when we're really losing money on. So we went up on that more than the others. InfoWarsShop.com or sign up at InfoWars.com/newsletter if you want your free copy in your inbox today at 2 o'clock. We'll be right back. Wow, where to begin? Coming up at the start of the next hour, I'm going to get into this report. U.S. Army grants $3 million for anti-suicide nasal spray research because the suicides are at all-time mega records, 7 to 8 times previous records. And I've got all the death statistics here from the Department of Defense, military personnel, and veteran suicide prevention graphs. We're going to be going over all of that, and I'm going to explain to you why this is happening. In fact, I'll go ahead and tell you the main reason. They're putting them on serotonin reuptake inhibitors that on the insert says destroys your lack of restraint. To where if you feel like killing yourself, you just do it. Or you feel like killing others, you just do it. It is in the hallucinogen class. That's the biggest issue. Because Big Pharma runs things and runs the kook cult of psychiatrists and psychologists. They're going to keep doing this. And it's a cocktail of other reasons, but I always say something's coming up, then just get to it. I'm going to talk about all that in the next hour. Okay? Let's just do this. I get so wound up with all this news, and then I never even cover it because I get so upset. Let's just give the number out and take calls on whatever you want to discuss. Yesterday, I said I wanted to talk about the melting down economy, the preparations for collapse. Do you think there'll be a collapse? And almost none of the callers called in about that. They called in with their personal stories or whatever. Whatever. I want to talk to the callers, but I want to hear your take on that. Your take is on the general craziness of the world. 800-259-9231, 800-259-9231. I do have an angle on Prince Harry. Naked pictures at Las Vegas party with his friends. Yeah, those are real good friends that are taking pictures of you running around having an orgy. They're spinning it as a playing a naked game of pool, of billiards. In fact, don't even show the photos, guys. I don't want to show them on TV. And it just shows media control. If somebody the globalists didn't like was doing that, it'd be over for him. But the media's like, oh, what's the big deal? He's in Vegas. They're just playing a naked game of billiards, like strip poker. Yeah, that's why there's shots of him bending women over and having sex with them. I mean, that's what that is. You got a woman bent over. He's obviously having sex with her. She's penetrated. And normally I wouldn't cover a piece of tabloid news like this unless there's a teaching point in it. a teaching moment. And you notice here, he's got a blonde bent over the table having sex with her. That's what this is, the prince having sex with a woman. And they spin it. That's what spin is. Oh, it was just a fun naked game of pool at a private party called an orgy. The headline should be Prince Caught in Orgy. Remember, a bunch of Republicans were out on a boat in Israel in the Mediterranean, and some of them didn't have swim shorts, so they discreetly, with towels at night, took the towels off and jumped in naked. Others were wearing their underwear. And the FBI investigated. Oh, my gosh, what's going on here? And again, I'm not even defending the Republicans. It just shows because the White House and Justice Department are a bunch of criminals who are political. They went after the Republicans for reportedly out of about 20 people, maybe one or two, stripped off naked. Well, yeah, when you're wearing a suit, you don't get in your underwear because then you're going to be wet when you get out. At night, I've swam naked in the ocean many times. I guess I'm evil. But the point is, I'm not even judging the prince. He's not even the prince. His mother was well known, went out with an army officer, the spitting image of Prince Harry. Prince Charles has even been caught shooting his mouth off about it. It's just an example of media spin. And that's not our top story, but that's the first thing over here on my right-hand side of the stack. So I'm going to come back, run through some more of these. It's just an example of how they spin things. 800-25-99231. Americans toss out as much as 40% of their food, study says. Very wasteful. Man kicked off flight over anti-TSA shirt. California set to issue driver's license to young illegal immigrants. Yeah, that's happening everywhere. Robot to throw the first pitch at Detroit Tigers game. And soon you won't be able to drive your own cars. Dartmouth researchers develop slave collars for children and more. Stay with us. I heard local talk radio reading out of the Houston Chronicle this morning, and it was the former, I guess she's current state rep, Susanna Hupp, doing the show along with the other host, and they were marveling and wondering aloud why $500 million a month in the state of Texas is given to people on Lone Star food stamp cards, and why they can get $50 cash back each time they go and buy cigarettes and liquor with it. And how a state study showed the majority of it was going to illegal aliens, where the state is told to accept the fake tax ID numbers. And so an illegal can walk in with 5 fake numbers and get 5 cards right there. Illegals can drink and drive, and they're left alone. The list goes on because they're God. The government wants them here to drive down wages and vote for gun control and the destruction of this country. They work for the collaborator globalists that have taken over the nation. But I sat there for 30 minutes driving into work, and they just couldn't figure out why this was happening. Why they're getting rid of our Social Security, we're going bankrupt, but tens of billions of dollars a month is in food stamps. And they're running ads saying, come get your food stamps. Even if you have a job, you probably qualify. Because they want people dependent. And they want political armies that are dependent. Let me explain what this is. 5,000 years ago, let's pick a archaeological area. In the Tigris-Euphrates sector, they have found primitive pens and areas where humans began to domesticate, even before that, pigs and goats and sheep and horses and dogs and cats. And do you know how cultures domesticate animals? Well, one way to do it is to kill the parents and then hand raise the young, bottle raise the young. Or you can simply start bringing in animals and leaving food out for them, and then build a pen that they come into and eat out of. And then next time they come in to eat, you close the pen. Then you start hand feeding them once they're starving. That's how you domesticate animals. And see, that's what this is domestication. And Homeland Security in the last 2 years has announced they've just legalized all the illegal aliens by fiat. Congress is doing nothing. Just like they're shutting down our power plants. Congress wouldn't pass the law to do it, so Obama just did it. And there's the Houston Chronicle. Food stamps hit record level in Texas. And it's all over the country. And they will take your house if you haven't paid the property taxes. Well, most people paid for their houses, but they can't pay the property taxes because they're retired or whatever. The property taxes on a small house are like $5,000, $6,000 in Austin, where I live, much higher in other areas of the country. And then when they just come and they auction off your house, and then they come with police who kill you if you try to resist. So they're killing people, killing them if they don't pay their income tax to the private Federal Reserve, killing people if they don't pay the property tax that didn't exist till 60 years ago, killing people if they, drive through a toll road without paying. The cops chase you down. You're lucky if they don't beat you half to death for it because you're a piece of trash who's got to be kept in line. You're an American scum. You're a milk cow, slave, and you better learn it and get it through your head. But hey, boss, why do we care? We got plenty of food. Why do we want to gang up on all these ants? Because those ants outnumber us 100 to 1, and if they ever figure that out, that will end our way of life. That is how this works. You know the movie Ants? Or is it Bug's Life? I forget. The point is, try to find that clip. I want to play that going out to break if we can. That's what we're dealing with here. And I see the cops all amped up, driving around their motorcycles, looking back and forth, and the cops all looking crazed. And it's like, man, you think you're in Fallujah because they've been taught we're the enemy. But an illegal alien is the God. And I quite frankly am tired of it. And people say, oh, well, you just don't like the illegal aliens. Well, bingo. Yeah, I don't like the fact that they're teamed up with the globalists and above the law. And that they can start businesses and not pay taxes and get 5 or 6 or 7 or 8 welfare checks because the system only lets them engage in the open fraud and then drive around in giant brand new cars and have more than citizens do only because they're there in that niche as a weapon to drive down wages. Because, again, the system doesn't let citizens engage in that type of fraud. They throw the book at you. I mean, I saw that report that we could have broken. I'm just pointing out that we're here in Austin, that national story a few weeks ago, where the illegals, the IRS just gives them tax ID numbers, knowing as many as they want. Hey, you want 20 of those? And with each one, they get tax rebates. They get tax refunds. They get to sign up credit lines. And then they attach it to other people's Social Security numbers, and the banks accept that. They accept the fraud of the illegals. And now, California and a bunch of other states that already give more in-state tuition to illegals than they do people who are from the state, California is set to issue driver's licenses to young illegal immigrants. California is on the verge of allowing, well, Texas does that. I mean, they just give them to illegals, period. I mean, you can go in and get one. But if you're a citizen, you're treated like trash. And you say, hey, why do I have to show 5 forms and thumb scan and all this? And she'll be like, trooper, I've been arrested going in there doing this. They'll come over and bow up. You got a problem. This country's ours now, boy. It's ours now. We work for Goldman Sachs. Of course, they don't even know that. But that's the spirit of it. And California is on the verge of allowing hundreds of thousands of undocumented immigrants, they always start with one group, to receive a driver's license for the first time in nearly 2 decades. The key question is how to do it. They'll just do it like Texas and other states. I mean, hell, the police all over the country in 800-plus sanctuary cities already accept consular matriculars, and they've got consulates in Austin, in Houston, right here where I live. And I mean, if you go in there, it's pure nationalism. They teach in comic books that are handed out in Mexico that the Southwest belongs to Mexico, that white people are evil, and that the United States is going to be taken over. And again, this isn't even about Hispanics, whites. This is about a nationalism and a government that is being used by the globalists to help bring down the United States, help break down our culture and what we are, our diverse culture, with a bunch of nationalism, while the globalists are busy destroying Mexico as well, shipping the drugs into the country. And we shouldn't sit here and lie to ourselves about all this going on, but this is another example. Just like they said we're going to stop deporting illegals, and now they just let them go. They let aggravated felons go. The government decides. That is the bureaucracy, not the Congress. They even used, remember that article of Fox News AP a few years ago? Illegals were hired to build the border fence that's just for show. It's a total for show. Build a few miles here, a few miles there. They put giant open gates on it for the wildlife to go through. I mean, it's a joke. It's a total sickening joke. And I just bring this up to illustrate what an out-of-control, lawless criminal system we have that ships drugs into the country, guns out of the country, and guns to drug gangs around the U.S., and it comes out in federal court and nobody gets in trouble. Because the public is in a zombie trance state medically. The average person medically has a lower brainwave operating system. You can pull up the articles on this than they had 20 years ago. They're at a near sleep state, a daydreaming state. You say people don't talk to each other anymore? People look like they're in a daze? They don't look like they're in a daze. They're in one. And that's why you basically got these sharks, these piranhas swimming around in our society, dealing with victims who don't even know who they are. And then you put combat veterans on a bunch of serotonin reuptake inhibitors, and they start killing themselves and their families. Because that's what the drugs are designed to do. I'm telling you, there's no limit to evil. When you give in to evil, like our culture has, the worst of the evil goes to the top immediately, and that's why suddenly it's black uniforms, burning cities, mass death, slave work brigades, because to the psychopaths, that's beautiful. Little kids starving to death, crying in a cage with pus coming out of their eyes is so beautiful to the New World Order. You can go look up articles about decadent art the elite buy. It's all dead children, maggots, dead bodies, hanging in their private areas of their homes. Because this is who they are. They've come to kill. And they're killing everybody. You know, I was thinking about this yesterday before I go to your calls and the rest of the news. I'm going to cover this later in the second hour. About the, quote, stress vaccines that actually attack your brain so you can't feel emotion anymore. They're already testing these on the troops. They're testing all sorts of other drugs. And what's crazy is I went and saw a movie like the new Bourne film, The Bourne Legacy, and the whole thing beginning to end is totally accurate, exactly how things work. Never seen a movie like it. And what's crazy is everything in it is actually hidden in plain view, just compartmentalized. And we are in a softer stage of the brainwashing and chemical manipulation ourselves. But super soldiers, they train to be robotic and have super stamina and be able to operate 2 or 3 times longer. With us, we don't get the super soldier treatment. We get the estrogen mimickers, the toxins, the cancer viruses. So we're just addled and poisoned. So the globalist can operate with different treatments and avoidance schemes they have to be healthy while they sit there killing us. And even their minions aren't even part of this. They're compartmentalized. I'll tell you right now, somebody like Janet Napolitano, who's just busy all day running around, engaged in degeneracy, you know, with all her friends, she doesn't have even 1/2 the image. I've run into top globalists before, and they know some of it, but they don't even know all of it because they're lazy. They've been put in positions because they follow orders and don't think. We have reverse engineered the whole deal. And we are now in the position the globalists are in, but we don't want to carry out the evil. We now sit in a vantage point they sit in. The info war does. And I don't think I'm even worthy to be able to bring you this info, but no one else was able to reverse engineer it and create a platform to reach people. By the grace of God, we're here poised, able to do that and be able to communicate with you right now. But your food and your water that your children are eating has been weaponized. You are being killed. I mean, look at the statistics. Look at the numbers. The troops are being decommissioned with the suicides. It's designed that way. They know the drugs kill them. They're being decommissioned with the DU, just like you decommission a cannon by spiking it, letting the barrel. We are nothing but animals to the globalists. We are nothing but pure trash, filth, chattel. We are absolute garbage. And it's a real shame that the worst of our society has gotten in control, who don't just not mind killing us, they enjoy it with relish. They love burning cities and children dying of deformities from DU. They loved 14-fold increases in deformities in the troops' children. This is their art. This is their literature. This is their love letter to the devil. You got to work on the dark side, like Dick Cheney said. Well, I've seen the dark side, and it isn't a cheerleader dressed up in a devil outfit like you see on the back of people's cars. The devil's good-looking woman, voluptuous woman, wild eyes, lust. No. God gave us life and gave us sex and gave us all the pleasures. The devil delivers destruction. The parable of the genie. You ask for the ton of gold. You better say, I want a ton of gold placed in front of me. 10 feet. Your first wish is that you can do no harm to me or not have someone else do harm to me. When you're doing a contract with evil, ladies and gentlemen, you never get out of it except through Christ. There's no winning. There's no outracing the devil. All of you that are going to serve this system will be destroyed. And all that you've done to the little children will come back on you many times fold. And I'm here to tell you, there is a heaven and there is a hell. And you will pay. You know what hell is? It's spiritually being cast into a dimension with people like you. I use the analogy of Superman 2, where they put him into that plate of glass, that dimension, fire them off into space together. That's what hell is. Hell is real. But let me tell you the law of the universe. Even if you don't believe in heaven and hell, and all you believe in is the pain and the screams of the innocents that's music to your filthy ears, you need to understand something right now. You will be destroyed in this life. All the pain you bring to the innocents will be delivered to you many times over. Remember that and know it well. Let's go ahead and take a call. Let's talk to Frank in North Carolina. You're on the air, Frank.
Yeah, thanks, Alex. Called in several weeks ago, and apologize. I was a little out of it when I called. That Colonel Six, about Colonel Six's death, I had picked that up on kind of a garbled transmission off of shortwave one night.
Yeah, we talked about it, and I don't even really know the full story. But what's on your mind today, sir?
Well, the details didn't really quite make sense to me, but apparently it was confirmed that he had died. But I wanted to make another suggestion. I had told you some years back, and I had asked you about it recently, about the movie Shooter, and you stated that you had really appreciated that movie, and you thought it was the best movie of its kind, and I totally agree with that.
Yeah, but now it isn't. Now this Bourne film is incredible, because you know what? It's not just an element of the government that's doing this evil. It's the government. In all these movies, oh, it's a small group doing the evil. No, it's the whole government's involved. They're criminals at the top. They're using the soldiers like machines, and they're killing people, and they're injecting viruses into them that reprogram their brain, which is what they really do. I mean, this film is highly classified. It took me a decade to reverse engineer what they're doing, and this film is real. That film is a fictional account of real stuff they're doing. I was blown away. Go ahead.
Okay, well, a blast from the past. If you liked The Shooter, and I wasn't going to go and see the new Bourne movie, but I probably will now, based on your recommendation. But there's a Cold War version of The Shooter, very similar type movie. It's with Gene Hackman and Tommy Lee Jones from 1989. It's called The Package, and it also goes into meticulous detail about how they set this Army sergeant up. They take him out of his regular unit, reassign him, pump him up, tell him he's special, he's going to be part of, this big training drill and whatnot. He's going to go undercover. And Tommy Lee Jones plays the part of the real assassin who takes over his identity, and they leave his body, they're going to leave his body at the scene of the crime.
I got to see it, absolutely. Again, and these films are exactly how they do it. Monday through Friday, 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. Central. We are here live, back 7 o'clock Central at prisonplanet.tv. Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to get into military suicides and how it ties into mind control at the bottom of the next hour, because I want to just start going through your calls, 800-25-99231. We don't screen your calls, so it's always all over the map. Never know what you're going to hear next. And, yeah, I got about 15 stacks of giant news here we'll be going over as well. Like slave bracelets for the children that monitor them medically and monitor their minds when they're in school. You think the government's out of control. You ain't seen nothing yet. TSA now hitting the streets at campaign events. Let's go ahead and talk to Scott in Arizona. You're on the air, sir.
Hey, Alex. Yeah, I was in Wickenburg here this morning working out of Wickenburg, which for people that don't know where Wickenburg is, it's between Phoenix and Las Vegas. It's on your way to Las Vegas or vice versa. Anyway, they have a little, off the 93 highway, they have a little convenience store which has a Jack-in-the-Box inside of it. And I walked in there to, get some breakfast this morning, and I see, I thought it was a cop, but as I got, closer view of him, it was a TSA guy. It said Transportation Security. And, everything else looked just like a cop, dark blue outfit. And he was ordering a big breakfast for everybody on the bus, which I didn't see when I pulled in. It was on the side. When I was leaving, I got to see that. But and it was completely black, and it was from Nashville. But he said they were coming from Phoenix and they're heading towards Las Vegas. I did talk to him for a second. I didn't confront him about anything. I was just more, before I thought he was a cop at first, so I was just saying, you guys staying busy? He goes, oh, yeah, there's plenty of bad guys out there. And, but when like I said,
yeah, authoritarian governments always want to create their own police force they can put criminals and people in. Stalin, Hitler, Mao, they all did it. And now they're everywhere, and they're going to pull you. I mean, you think you're not going to fly and not have convicted pedos grab your children? Listen, they're coming to the highways, and they're going to have police standing by to machine gun you with armored checkpoints. They're going to take your wife to a rape room. It's freedom. Al-Qaeda may be hiding in there. I mean, it's just sick. It's total sickness. I would have loved to, man, I tell you what, I've just had enough. Had enough of this filthy, murdering, foreign occupational government. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Oh, yeah, he did say one thing to me, like I said, when I thought I was talking to a cop at first, when he did say that, he goes, it's job security. So it seems like they're just getting people that are, like you said, they're just picking anybody up that will do this job that's hurting for a job right now and trying to make ends meet. And,
Yeah, no, they implode the economy, and then all you get's government jobs. But the more cops they hire, none of them can do actual real police work because they're out writing tickets because they tell them that funds their job when it all goes offshore to megabanks. We are conquered by foreign banks. They publicly brag. They put cancer viruses in our shots, you idiot TSA people. And then they get to write articles about how I'm an extremist because I'm mad about it when Harvard admits the fluoride's killing us. They're putting bug poison in the stinking water supply. I appreciate your call, sir. We're going to go to break and come back and take calls. I'm going to try to not get angry here. I'm just sick of it. I'm sick of it. I'm looking at these photos and stuff at TSA at Paul Ryan events, out on the street in front of it, searching people. Just keep your hands off of me. Your bosses staged the underwear bombing and got caught doing it, for heaven's sakes. It came out on C-SPAN. The government is run by foreign, murdering, child kidnapping, narcotics trafficking killers. Well, even mainstream media admits the war with Iran is on the fast track. Doesn't mean we can't stop it. That's coming up. Economic news, your phone calls. I'm going to break down exactly why the troops are committing suicide en masse. It's a cocktail of issues, but I'm going to do that at the bottom of the hour. Tie it into these viral vaccines that are really nanotech reprogrammer systems. Let's, though, go ahead and go back to your calls right now. Colin in Texas, you're on the air. Welcome.
Hey, brother. How's it going?
It's going, I guess, pretty darn good. Everything's going to hell in a handbasket. It's wonderful.
We're still free for a little while, though, so let's live it up.
Yeah, well, I'm free right now to recognize a bunch of murdering criminals when I see it. Their mind control doesn't work on me. I'll tell you that right now.
Me neither, brother. But unfortunately, what I'm seeing around now everywhere is just sheeple. I try to talk to people every day. I've called in a bunch, and I just have a little suggestion for you since you got this magazine going out now and the nightly news. Maybe y'all should have a kind of like a how to talk to the sheeple section, telling people, you're the best at waking up people in the world, Alex. You do it every day, so you probably don't think about this.
Well, I think the key is getting real. We had that top lawyer in here, Wesley Snipes' lawyer, and he's got a lot of other people off. I mean, Snipes went to jail for the silly angle of misdemeanors, but the big felonies were defeated. Very rare to be able to win something like that with the case they had. And he said, no, the key is attacking and being in the face and shaking people out of their complacency. People are in a medical trance, sir. So if you come up and try to go, oh, hi, I know this sounds kooky, but did you know you're like, hey, things are getting ready to collapse. It's engineered. We've been taken over by foreign banks. Read this article in InfoWars magazine. Here, have a copy where it's got links to the bankers bragging that they've captured America. Did you know foreign banks said they've captured America? And then if they say, okay, what are you going to do about it? We'll say, well, hey, we better do something about it. And then realize, go, listen, I know you're not going to listen now because you don't feel good about yourself. You think you're powerless. But down the road when stuff really gets bad, kind of grab them like with a Vulcan deal and say on the shoulder, I mean, I'm saying figuratively, but get them and say, listen, brother or sister, as things get a lot worse, remember what I said to you. Remember. And so many times, a year or two down the road, they're going to activate. But look, the world's always had a lot of sheeple. They are always going to sit there and suck their thumb. We're dealing with a very small cadre of global criminals that manipulate their minions through compartmentalization and need to know. We have the data dump from the top. So the best people to target is people in the system because I actually found they're the easiest to wake up because when you give them this stuff, they go, that makes perfect sense. It never made sense. How do you know all this? Well, that's true what you're saying there. It's like, yeah, because, I'm here from the rebellion. I'm here to help. Come on, join us. We need to get past this fighting with people and say, do you know you work for a bunch of pedophile scum? Here's some proof. Okay, well, you don't like doing that, do you? Well, wake up and at least know they're the enemy. You see, you've just got to just over the top, because reality is over the top. Reality is over the top. Sir, I go back to this. I only say this a lot because people pay attention to Harvard. There's thousands of studies, thousands. Harvard came out and said, in a big study, we've reviewed dozens of studies from 1976 to 2011, and it's conclusive. Massive cancer increases and IQ reduction in every city, fluoridating. It's deadly poison. We recommend it be taken out. Why would even Harvard do that? Because they got brain-damaged kids now. They got family dying. The average idiot working for the system, even at the dean level, is not a globalist operative. Oh, they've been told there's global governance to help the poor, and yeah, we are going to reduce population because it's for the earth, but we're kind of sweetie, and you're going to be part of the winning team, and then their 12-year-old gets diagnosed with bone cancer. And then they find out that bone cancer is off the chart. And then they find out, and then they bury their kid, or they cremate them. And then that gets them to get into religion real quick and find out why I'm so angry. Because I don't like watching a bunch of scumbag, foreign, crazy bankers full of a bunch of bravada and hubris poisoning us. I'm here to wake people up. I'm here to break the conditioning. I'm here for the wake-up call. It's time to come alive! We'll be back. Stay with us. The resistance starts now. It starts with you. All right, we are continuing with your phone calls, and at the bottom of the hour, we're going to look at why the troops are really committing suicide at record numbers, 7 to 8 times any previous record. We'll also look at national news, geopolitical news, huge news in the Middle East. It is all coming up at the bottom of the hour, but right now I want to continue with your phone calls here today. Let's talk to Michael in Tennessee. You're on the air. Welcome.
Hello, Mr. Jones. How are you today, sir?
I'm pretty good.
Thank you for having my call. It's the first-time caller. But
you don't have to thank me, man. Most of these talk show hosts make you grovel and beg and go through call screening, and where some control freak tries to make sure you agree with their agenda. You're on the air worldwide. Hit me and hit me hard with info.
Okay. Well, I don't have any new information for you. I just wanted to applaud your efforts of your new print campaign. I think that's a really great idea, and I think it's amazing that it's going to be revitalized in this country. I would call for people at the local level to, especially on college campuses.
Yeah, well, you got your point in before your phone died. Thank you, Michael in Tennessee. And if you just joined us, we printed 70,000 copies. 50,000 copies hit the streets of Austin. In less than 24 hours, we sold all of the 20,000 copies that we had. The extras. They all sold. So I just put an order in, and they're going to print them today because they still happen to have the press set up for it, miraculously. That saved us a bunch of money, to print 20,000 more of The Bad Boy. So we're going to be printing those today. We will have those tomorrow, and we're printing 20,000, and that's it. It'll be a sold-out edition. So that'll be 90,000 total. Our advertisers paid to be in 70,000, but they're going to be in 90,000. And it is powerful. It is free for everybody. An e-copy that you can flip through like a regular magazine. Click on the website links. It's going to work. Infowars/newsletter. Infowars.com/newsletter. Put in your email, and we're going to send it out at 2 o'clock today on 2 different platforms, depending on which type of computer you have. But it looks just like a regular page. It bends and folds like a page. You can click on the links. And in the future, we can even have videos embedded in it. It's pretty amazing the systems we've signed up that we're using. So Infowars.com/newsletter. Or if you missed that URL, just the right-hand side says sign up for Alex Jones's newsletter. It's got my picture up there and a lot more, not just the magazine monthly, will be sent to you free. If you want to buy them in bulk, InfoWarsShop.com or InfoWarsStore.com will get you there. You can't miss it. You can buy them at cost at InfoWarsShop.com or by calling 888-253-3139. And it's free on the street. But I think next issue we'll take the free off just so people that want to sell them in their grocery stores, in their gas stations, in their businesses can sell them. It cost us about 50 cents after printing and shipping it to us from the printer outside Austin, right at about 50 cents a piece. I suggest you sell them for about $1 a piece. Because after all, we're not communists. You should bet. We've had a bunch of requests for the racks that say Infowars.com that cost us like $40. They're nice racks. We're going to look for a place that's less expensive, so we're going to try to do a deal where you can buy racks if you want them for $50 to put in your business as well. So there you go. It's already exploding a lot faster than I thought it would. Soon we'll put up a website and stuff for people that want to franchise it into their city and put out their local version of Infowars newspaper/magazine. So there you go, InfoWarsShop.com. Didn't mean to do a plug right there at the start of the hour. The guy just brought it up. But yeah, it's going to be devastating on the college campuses and everywhere else. I mean, you want to wake somebody up. This is powerful. Let's go ahead and go to Steve in Iowa. Thanks for holding, Steve.
Hey, Alex. Thanks for taking my calls. Long-time listener, first-time caller.
Thank you, sir. Welcome.
Welcome. For one, I would just like to thank you for jumping on Brandon Robb's story. That, to me, is the beginning of the end of America as we know it. What is your take on that, sir? Well,
you've got talk show host confirmed, arrested for saying there's going to be a collapse. He's buying guns to protect himself. Had that fella on yesterday. And then supporters fear Marine being disappeared. That's Brandon Robb. And his Facebook stuff is like, the globalists have taken over. They staged 9/11. There's going to be a revolution against these criminals. Everything I say, I bet money he's a listener. And they went and psychiatric group grabbed him and his family videotaped him being drug off. But by the way, they didn't call on him. So it's not like the family says he's going crazy. And so that's the new thing is that, and now they've moved him and 3 hours away. And so this is the new, people are going to the FEMA camps. I mean, they went and grabbed this pretty popular talk show host that we had an article about yesterday that the Northeast Intelligence Group wrote a story about where they came out to his house with no warrant, no nothing, tricked him into coming outside, grabbed him and said, you're being involuntarily committed, and threw him in a mental institution until he agreed to sign papers to give his guns up. So that's the new thing. And if they come and grab you, the problem is now they did this to a lot of famous writers and people like Hemingway. He said the FBI was spying on him, harassing him. Of course, it was later declassified they were. They said that was mentally ill because the FBI wouldn't do that in America. So they grabbed him, electroshock therapied him for about 6 months till he didn't know who he was. And he was so depressed about it, they say he committed suicide. So, they could grab me, electroshock me 6 months, put me on antipsychotics, brain damage me, release me out. And that's how they roll. And this is a criminal group of child kidnapping murderers that run our country. Type in UN, NATO, Defense Department child kidnapping. It's BBC, AP, Reuters, and they just grab the kids, run them out to slave pits all over the world, and that's the way it is. I mean, pure demonic murdering scum that see us as absolute animals run the country. Anything else, sir?
Yeah, I just wanted, Fox finally it got on mainstream media like 4 days later, but Fox did a little thing on it, and they quoted the one of the things that he said, I'm sharpening my axe, I'm ready to sever heads. But when they did that, they never said that was actually song lyrics. They just said that he said that, but they were actually song lyrics because
No. Well, listen, they could take what I'm saying if I said, you know what, we're going to blow the competition away. And then, oh, you're going to blow somebody up. No, it's a figure of speech. And it's all part of the new thought crime. They want to intimidate us. They want to keep us down, demonize us to the police, and then march the police in against us to start a civil war. But I got news for the globalists. I talked to a lot of police, so do my sources. The police have never woken up like this. It is miraculous what's happening. Self-preservation will do that to you, by the way. The police aren't stupid at the end of the day. They know a civil war of the American people is not going to go well.
I'd like to thank you for what you're doing, and one last thing is if they ever try to take you, it'd probably be the worst thing. I mean, I know this Brandon Robb thing is
well, maybe they want that, though. I mean, listen, I don't ever lie to myself and tell me they won't shoot me or kill me or set me up tomorrow. I just put it in God's hands, and whatever happens, it's in God's hands. I appreciate your call. Good to hear from you. Yeah, supporters fear Facebook Marine being disappeared. Brandon Robb forcibly transferred to psychiatric facility 3 hours away from legal team and family. The man kidnapped by police and committed to mental institution for his political post on Facebook. Fear the former Marine is being disappeared by authorities, our new masters, after he was forcibly transferred to a psychiatric facility more than 3 hours away from his family and legal team. And former veteran of foreign wars, who they say is the #1 enemy, in Afghanistan and Iraq, was involuntarily detained for psychiatric questioning last week by our loving globalist in Virginia's Chesterfield, Virginia, leaving anti-establishment messages on Facebook, which questioned the official story behind 9/11 and referring to corruption within the U.S. government. The FBI claims Robb's posts were terrorist in nature. That's a quote. He's being held against his will, despite not being charged with any crime under the state law that allows people to be temporarily committed for a period of 30 days. By the time they've ended up drugging him out, they'll get whatever they want. That's what criminals do. It's all about controlling everything and ganging up and winning against good people. He's being transferred to the John Randolph Psychiatric Mental Hospital in Hopewell, the Veterans Hospital in Salem, Virginia, on the other side of the state. Well, that's bad. So there you go, Infowars.com. You want to read that. A lot of veterans I know. I know a former famous UT football player is a veteran. No criminal record. And he literally did the textbook thing, went to buy his grandson a .22 rifle. And they said, sorry, you've been denied. And he did request, and they said, well, we're just saying in Vietnam, you might have had some problems. Well, I never had post-traumatic. You don't get guns anymore. No judge, no jury. Shut up, scum. We work for foreign banks. Ha, ha, ha. But there is no global government, even though we're announcing it. Ha, 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 because you're mentally ill. Craig in Oklahoma, you're on the air. Welcome.
Well, thank you, Mr. Jones. Big howdy from across the Red River. And I had wanted to call you today, and maybe you could help me. I just don't understand. For instance, where are the gentry? Why aren't they waking up? You know, now my father is starting to wake up. I think I've got him convinced to take all of the family money out of the banks and put it into gold. But like, you know, I started following you and posting concerning, you know, us equipping Al Qaeda in Libya and in Syria, and people thought I was crazy. You know, and I stumbled across. I didn't even see this, but in February, the BBC Middle East had a video. It's on there now.
No, they even wear Al-Qaeda uniforms, NATO helicopters landing, dumping out black uniformed Al-Qaeda with Al-Qaeda flags. Stay there. I'm going to come back to you. But, yes, the CFR website, LA Times, all of them, for over a year with Libya, now in Syria, Al-Qaeda is the main force. The quote from the CFR is, we need Al-Qaeda, America. America doesn't exist. We were taken over by foreign banks. The only way freedom comes back and America comes back is if we realize the tyrants wrapped their takeover in the American flag. We were infiltrated. We were taken over. And yes, the criminals that run our government are Al-Qaeda. They are Al-Qaeda. I'm like a caged, desperate animal just clawing, trying to get out. We're being poisoned. We're being killed. The globalists brag they've set up a scientific dictatorship. They're trying to mop up freedom, trying to get rid of our families, promoting the end of families. It's just pure evil. And they admit the fluoride's killing us. They admit the GMO is sterilizing us. They're coming out with hundreds of new GMO crops where there's no way to escape it. They're attacking us at every level. And it's just so horrible. And I know it sounds crazy to an uninformed person to say elements of the government staged 9/11. But then you look at the facts, it's all right there. I mean, it's crazy to say the government would ship guns into Mexico to blame the Second Amendment or would have troops growing the opium. But when it came out, they just decided to hide it in plain view and have the troops talk about how it was patriotic to grow opium and ship it into America. And the caller brings up the Al-Qaeda. There are hundreds of articles where they just say, oh, yeah, Al-Qaeda is being armed by NATO, but in Saudi Arabia, and well, yeah, but they're the good guys, and yeah, they're blowing up the military bases and stuff, and Assad's bad, though. What we're doing is humanitarian, because they just know the average American's seen so many Hollywood movies where anybody in the Middle East needs to be killed, because Chuck Norris has taken them out or whatever. I know Chuck's a listener, been on the show before, writes about me in his column all the time, but I mean, you know what I'm talking about, where all those movies in the 80s where it's always the Arab doing the bad things. So people just, in a generality, just say, kill everybody over there. And you try to tell a good old boy, hey, you know the government runs Al-Qaeda. Hey, you know the government got the underwear bomber on the plane drugged. State Department admits that. They're just like, oh, come on, it ain't true. Well, let me tell you, what you don't know will hurt you. And people are like, well, what do you do about it then? You start speaking out against this system, and you realize it's the whole thing at the top. That's the only thing that's going to turn this around. I'm going to talk about that after the break. But who was I just talking to? They dropped off. I want him to come back and finish his story about talking to family about the Al-Qaeda and how it was finally in the news. That's why I said stay there to the caller. Oh, it doesn't matter. Let's go to Anthony in New Jersey, listening on XM 166. You're on the air, sir.
Alex, how you doing?
I'm just, it's all coming true. I wish I was wrong. I'm pretty freaked out. And
I'm with you.
I mean, during the last break, it just hit me again how crazy this is. And I can't believe I'm the one fighting it. Do you have any idea how dangerous this is? But it's got to be done. I mean, this nightmare has to stop. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I agree. A couple years ago, I was traveling by plane, and I was subject to molestation by the TSA. And since that point, and listening to your show, I was going to be ready the next time I traveled. So last week I traveled to Vegas, and before I got on the plane, of course, I had to go through the TSA, and I opted out. I didn't go through the machine, and because I did it, I got at least 4 other people behind me who did the same thing, and I was just really upset.
Yeah, well, let me stop you. That's one thing about sheep. That can be used against the globalists. Sheep are so sheep-like that if they see you do something, they'll start doing it. So see, that mindlessness works 2 ways. It's not just them ordering the sheep around. When the sheep see you standing up, they all stand up. I'm sorry, go ahead. So what happened to you?
You're right. So, all right, because I did that, they were obviously ticked off at me. So you could see one of them on the radio to the other one looking at my girlfriend and checking her out, and then they got her license, and they were looking real hard at it. And I confronted him. I said, you got to go look, that's my girl, and I see what you're doing. You're not going to fool me. I know what you guys are up to. So I got on the plane. I happened to open up the magazine on the airplane, and it just opened up to this article by the guy who owned the United. He's the CEO, and he states in this article that, we thank you for flying with us, and we're happy for your business, but we just want to let you know that the TSA isn't, we don't control the TSA. They're a separate thing, and we're sorry for your inconvenience, but we don't have any control over that. And in this
no. Listen, the TSA has caused a revolt. And in Europe, similar things. It's unifying everybody because, and they know it's going to make us mad. They've got to break us to touch us on the streets, to get rid of the Fourth Amendment. Next, it's our houses. Airports, streets, houses. And so that's why all the marbles are on this. It's killing $40 billion a year conservatively just in theme parks, restaurants, hotels, and resorts. Okay, they're destroying the country, but that's what they want. I'm sorry, finish your story.
So, in this article, it says now that they're pleased to say that the TSA has launched a new risk-based pre-screening initiative where you voluntarily give your information to be a part of the expedited program, which would then allow you to not have to remove your shoes, belts, jackets.
Yeah, but that's a lie, too. It says they may let you. It's still just another lane, and then the groping will continue. They're going to have 3 levels: full rape room, open grope, and then a special lane for good globalists, but still they may drag you out. So, yeah, it's hurting you into the next level of slavery. All right, I'm going to talk about some of the most hardcore focused information I've ever discussed here in a moment. I am Alex Jones. I am your host. I am 110% dedicated to throwing my body, my soul, my will, my entire being against the enemy. And I know in my gut, but also from history and research, that at the core of humanity, of every race, color, creed, religion, who is aware of these truths, activates your human survival programming that God gave us. Your brain, if you set about focusing on it, will give you the ideas and the motivation and the energy to mount an assault in your area in the info war, to defeat the globalists, to discredit them, to drag their names to the mud, to crush them. And I will tell you this now. If you will not use the pen today, you will never use the sword tomorrow. All of you out there preparing with your armaments for civil war, you need to understand that you will never have the will to carry out defense of your family now if you don't get out there and engage in the info war today. Can you imagine the energy it'll take to go out and start engaging in warfare compared to aggressive info war? 90% of war nowadays is info war. We have the truth. They have the lies. Truth trumps lies. It's so powerful. It's a weapon that nothing can stop. Use it. Use it. Destroy them. Destroy them with it. It's a weapon. Viciously attack them with it. Hate them. Get your human instinct going. Get your survival mode activated. This is how humans are supposed to act, not the little ninnies that they've tried to engineer us to be. You want to be like that Facebook clown? That's what they've turned people where I live in Austin into. You're trendy if you can't talk and to talk with a lisp but don't care about anything and hurt yourself. I'm going to talk about something that really makes me mad in a moment, but can we pull up that Facebook thing? People can hear the voice of a zombie. You want to hear the voice of a zombie? This is everything that we're diametrically opposed to. This is an ad for their face scanning to sell. They give you discounts if you let them track your whole background and your whole database and tell you what you should buy because the computer knows who you are in the profile. Just like they're tracking you and know where you're going to go with your cell phone before you go there. They know you're going to go to that steakhouse. Evil always targets women first. I'm not talking about Adam and Eve, folks, even if you don't believe that. The point is, propaganda. Go read Hitler and Goebbels on women. Women run society. Men serve women in the final equation. Women create the babies. Women live longer. They have more money in the Western world. Oh yeah, women have more money than men. Women have always been in the catbird seat. Men think they're in control, but they're out there fighting and dying and striving in every culture. Women are the heart. Women buy over 80% of the goods. That's why most advertising targets women. Talk radio is an anomaly, mainly men. Women are targeted. Women want to be friendly. They want to get along. They want to be friendly. And here's a globalist Defense Department, New World Order, tracking AI, pre-crime, rolled out, face scanning to buy and sell. When you're a trendy, when you talk about something really, really destructive, you kind of are allowed to get a little excited. So it's like life history. It's so fun.
All while checking you in.
Checking you in. All right, that's enough. Turn it off. Oh, my gosh. It's hellish. Can you imagine being locked in a cell with somebody talking like that? All right, now, that's somebody that's never done anything, never been anybody, never actually seen anything. I'll guarantee you somebody talking and acting like that's never had 4 guys get around them in a dark alley and start pounding on them and had to find out who you are to get their butts kicked and get them off of you. I'll guarantee you somebody like that has never worked very hard in their life. I'll guarantee you somebody like that doesn't know their head from a hole in the ground. And that's what we've become, jellyfish to the New World Order. So, of course, they're moving on every front against us. Let me just stop for just a minute. I want to take a pause for a moment. Will you go to Prison Planet Live, Paul Watson's site, and on that YouTube site, we've got that 3-minute promo for ProPure. I want to. This military news is so important. I want to get out of this floundering mode I get into, which is entertaining radio, I know, but it's literally my brain just going off in a million directions. So I need to. I need to pause here for just a moment. If you go to YouTube, guys, and all you got to do. You also have the ad loaded. I don't want the 9-minute one. I want the 3-minute one. You go to Prison Planet Live. It's Paul Watson's. In fact, I'll just pull it up right here on this computer and I'll show you. I'll just do it myself. YouTube.com. Boom. Okay. You go there. Quickest way to do it is just type Alex Jones in. One of the channels linked on our big channel. You scroll down. Okay. It's going to show you guys where this is at. Paul Watson's Prison Planet Live. And you just go there and you get it right off that site. Hell, I'll just put it into Google. I'll show you right now. Watch this, Prison Planet. Prison Planet Live. YouTube.com. Bam. And it pulls up Paul Watson's site. There it is. Okay. Go to his site. Go to rebroadcast. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're back here. I took a little break. I'm going to try to cover this news because every time I'm at an airport or on the street and somebody's in a uniform, everyone runs up and says, oh, I want to thank you for your service. I want to thank you for your service. And they just do it because it makes them feel good, like they're doing the right thing. Meanwhile, Americans hold less passports than anybody else in the world. Americans in major polls, I have a new one today, could care less about what's happening in the world or the military. In real polls, they could care less about you. And our military is not our military. It's openly run by foreign banks. They tell our military that NATO and the UN run our military. The bankers brag they've captured our country. So I thought I would break down for you why the troops are committing suicide en masse. Americans tune out of Afghan war as fighting rages on, Associated Press. And it goes through the fact it was once President Barack Obama's war of necessity. Now it's America's forgotten war. Yeah, because they said the war ended. You just tell people it ended, and they didn't end, but you tell people burning down the Waco church ended in an assault, and they go, well, it isn't an assault. They tell you tasering you for no reason isn't torture, but it is. An Afghan conflict generates barely a whisper on the U.S. presidential campaign trail. It's not a hot topic at the office water cooler or in the halls of Congress, even though there are 80,000 American troops, not to mention more contractors than that are still fighting here and dying at a rate of 1 a day. You got to grow the opium. And it goes on to show public opinion against it, but don't really care. Now, I thought I'd just mention that because I happen to have military personnel and veteran suicide prevention numbers here from AFSP, and it goes over the rise in suicides in the last 10 years, it's been steadily rising. It's been steadily rising. There are more people committing suicide than are dying in all the conflicts. Now, let me explain what this is. It's a cocktail of things. They're killing a lot of officers and investigators, fragging them. The mercenaries and people are who report on corruption. That's a small part of it, but that's part of the numbers. They always call it suicide when they shoot you in the head in your trailer. A lot of the troops are doing 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 tours. Their families are falling apart. Their paychecks won't pay for things. They feel bad about what they've done, so they're committing suicide. I mean, if you feel bad about military operations, you feel terrible no matter what the propaganda is, no matter how you've been lied to. You wake up, it's a fraud, and you kind of have a self-disposal switch. Your body says, you're not good for the tribe, kill yourself. Your mind does it. You get depressed. When you could repent, get out of it like Pat Tillman was going to do and speak out against it. But instead, you just kill yourselves. Not a good idea. You should kill yourself politically, getting the word out, busting your butt to tell the truth. You should make it right. If you've had an abortion and you know it's wrong now, go out and fight to save lives of other children. Go out and adopt children. Don't kill yourself. That's a cop-out. That's a coward's way out. Now, the biggest reason that troops are committing suicide, because I've gone and looked at most of these cases. They've been in 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 tours, which they wouldn't even do in World War II, make you serve more than one tour. A lot of it really stressful door-to-door type stuff. It's really abusive policing stuff where you're hated, where you're seeing dead kids. It's horrible. And so what's happening is they're putting them on Prozac and other serotonin reuptake inhibitors and other experimental drugs. Other experimental drugs. And I have an article here called The Marshall Plan in a Wired magazine. The 40 years the man behind Pentagon insiders called Yoda has foreseen the future of war. And he says in the future it won't be what weapons but what drugs the troops are on. They're experimenting with a bunch of psychotropics, viral injections that reprogram the brain, you name it. And in most of the suicide cases, because I've gone and looked up a bunch of them, they were under psychiatric care and sent back out, and now their impulse control is removed by the drugs, and that's why they're killing themselves and others. I mean, the Prozac insert says it increases suicide, psychotic activities. So that's what's going on here. We'll be back. All right, so continuing with the epidemic of suicide by military personnel and contractors. When you do something immorally wrong, even if your conscious mind has been programmed by media propaganda, deep down you feel like crap. And that's why in our entire 236 years of the U.S. Army, it's 7-fold the previous record in the Vietnam era of suicides. You can look up the numbers. That's a sign that evil runs this country. And all the folks out there are like, hire a warrior, do this and that. No, we need to end these evil wars, and we need to get them off of big pharma mind control drugs. I mean, the head futurist at the Army, at the Pentagon, Andrew Marshall, a futurist, he's the one that decides to put them on psychotropics, halcyon, amnesics. I mean, they are putting them, and they admitted here, all these hundreds of drugs. It's called the Marshall Plan. For 40 years, the Pentagon's insider called Yoda has foreseen the future of war. From battlefield bots rolling over radar-proof ships to GI popping performance pills, all that was before the war on terror. And then they go over all of this. Is an article from 2003, by the way, 9 years ago. Okay? So everything you see in the newborn movie, when I saw that a few nights ago with the crew, it totally freaked me out because everything in it was real programs, just pieces of it, and they were showing you what they're really doing, including in the 21st century, they don't just give you pills. They inject you with viruses that will go in and destroy the areas of the brain that give you what you'd call the conscience to not kill a child or not or the natural governor to where you can't run 50 miles because you might have a heart attack. They just removed that, and they have injected troops with it. They injected troops, special forces with microchips a decade ago. I talked to family about it, then when I brought it back up, just the fact that I'd mentioned that family told me that, they figured out who it was and got in their face. Now that person won't even talk to me. So they put microchips in them. I mean, it's so far down the road, ladies and gentlemen, and they're using them like machines, that they're using them till the wheels come off. The globalists hate the military, and they know that they're a bunch of drugged up, overused people when they come back, so they either make them cops to oppress us, or they're saying they're the main enemy, put them all in prison. You know, they're terrorists. And I've got a National Guard article here where they're saying the homeland is the biggest threat in the National Guard magazine, and that the returning veterans are the biggest threat. So here's the military being taught that they are the terrorists in their own magazine. Don wrote a story about it in June. I actually saw it doing some research this morning and reprinted it. Can't find it now. But my main point is this. Here's an RT article. U.S. Army grants $3 million for anti-suicide nasal spray research. And it's a very powerful drug chemical that basically turns them into automatons that they shoot up their nose. And so they're just turning the troops into a bunch of drug heads who they can then say are mental patients or whatever down the road. They know exactly what they're doing because the globalists absolutely hate America and hate our military. They hate them so much they're going to use them to take over the world while they soft kill them. And then separately, you can pull this up, CBS News, stress vaccine, don't worry, shot is on the way, says doctors. They already are giving these to the troops that, again, make them where they don't feel bad about what they're doing. And they're now saying that, oh, don't worry, we're going to give you a shot where you won't feel bad anymore. They're turning them literally into living zombies. I mean, we're living in a nightmare movie. You know, at about 40 after the last hour, I had to go off air. And it wasn't because I was mad at my crew because they couldn't find a 3-minute commercial to play so I could take a break. I was mad because I have all this data on how they're drugging the troops, killing the troops, hurting them. And it makes me angry that they talk all day about how much they love the troops when they actually hate them. And they're using them up like a natural resource. And they're planning to play them off against us in a civil war. And then I've got to articulate all this. And I've got all these documents and articles about how they're giving them cancer injections, how they're letting them die of DU. They're injecting them with viruses that are actually nanotech that reprogram the brain. And then they've got movies out, the Born Legacy showing what's real. And then I've got all the government documents that are public. Who knows what is classified? And it just gets crazier and crazier and crazier. And then I know I sound like a crazy person on air to someone who's uninformed. It's a nightmare. And then I'm all set and ready to go. And then I start joking around about the Facebook thing. And then I lose my thoughts and I just get angry. And I'll tell you, it's because I'm like a raccoon that's been put in a cage and thrown into a cow pond to be killed. And the raccoon is up there clawing and scraping and trying to get out. And you can see it under about 6 inches of water, trying to poke its nose out, trying to get to the surface, and you finally see it give up after a while. And I just am so tired of watching people in a zombie state getting poisoned and killed, and little kids that are getting sick and dying of cancer, and all the diabetes, and all the diseases, and all the curses, and all the deformities, and all the stuff that's happening. And the globalists are bragging how they did it, and I see them arming against us. And it's just if people knew what I knew and did the research and found out I wasn't making this up, there's no way any of you would put up with this, even if you were cowards. Because a coward would go, wow, we're doomed if we don't resist this. And then I feel guilty just constantly because I'm still a little bit worldly and do still enjoy status and money and things like that. And really, there's nothing wrong with having a little bit of money and status because it gives you a little bit of protection. But, you know, you rationalize, but you still feel bad, like you're not doing enough. That's why people call up and say, oh, you're doing such a great job. It's like getting punched in the nose, man. Because the callers are so sweet and so good. And it just reminds me of the general public being abused by the New World Order. Every time I look at my youngest daughter, who's so innocent, so full of good, and so I think about what the globalists are doing to little children, and with the GMO and the vaccines and the fluoride and how they know it. And I think about city councils I've seen on video all over the country laughing at medical doctors that come in and warn them. Those idiot city council people are going to have their wives and husbands and kids die young. But they're so unhuman and dumbed down and like biological android jellyfish. They kind of get into the pageant of their wife or husband or kids dying and the media attention and the balloons and the parties and the race for the cure and everything. And they don't even care. They kind of like being killed. They kind of like their family dying. They're like demonic jellyfish. Is the best way to describe it. They're people who want to be judged and want to be destroyed and want the globalists to fly over with drones and release an engineered human mouse pox so that 98% of them can flop around dying. And then when they do that, if they go to that level, which I know is part of their plan, the survivors will still worship the killers. Even though it's like, yeah, the drone flew over and did it, it won't matter. I mean, it's unbelievable. Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to continue with your calls and some other very important news from Infowars.com and PrisonPlanet.com. If you just joined us towards the end of the last hour, I went over the numbers of all-time record suicides for the U.S. military across the board. And it's not just soldiers that are in combat. It's across the spectrum. It's contractors, you name it. And it's because when they ask any questions or go get medical checkups, they're pushing all sorts of experimental drugs, mind control drugs, that's in the news, on them, but also serotonin reuptake inhibitors that were developed actually in CIA mind control programs. You can look that up and cause massive psychotic breaks, massive increase in suicide, mass killings. That's on the drug inserts. Eli Lilly covered up that fact in the 80s, late 70s, early 80s when they were getting it approved in 1981. The massive, 15-fold increase in suicide and psychotic activity. It's not a good idea to give people that are combat veterans of 3, 4, 5, 6 tours a drug like that because they're going to start wanting to kill their family when their wife's getting in their face. So they just, instead of killing their family, they go kill themselves. That's what I've looked at some of the crime files that are online, quite a few, and in most cases they were under psychiatric care on drugs. And you give somebody a hallucinogen that's a trained killer, it's bad news they're killing themselves. The good news is they're not killing their families or those around them. And so that's what's going on. And let me just explain something here. Earlier I read an article about how the average person does not care about the war and is sick of hearing about the war. That's out of the Associated Press. Americans tune out of Afghan war as fighting rages on. Let's get something straight. These people that run over when they see somebody in a uniform and say, oh, thank you so much for your service and all this, that's something they do that they think the troops want to hear. And some of them do it for good reasons. A lot of them do it just because it makes them feel politically correct and good. Like the women winning the volleyball thing, always thanking the troops. Now, I'd be shocked if she said, and let's get, the troops their pensions that were stolen by Prudential. They don't have a new hero. Because if you're actually going to care about somebody, you better actually know what help they need. That's why when I'm in an airport or on the street and people come over to guys in uniform, maybe if they're new recruits, privates, they like it, but you can see if it's a sergeant or somebody that, that's been in a long time, and the people come over, they're like, oh, thank you. You could tell it's like a punch in the stomach. They don't want to hear how great they are. They've been over there growing opium. They've been over there cleaning up little kids' guts. They've been over there watching people get fragged who speak out against Al-Qaeda being run by the West. They know Pat Tillman was murdered by the government. They don't want you telling them how great they are, okay? Let me just give you a little news flash, okay? Let me just give you a little news flash. When they go to the local football game and they're in plain clothes, and the principal comes out and talks about them, everybody points at them, using them for a propaganda point, because the principal and the coach likes to play like they're Army PSYOP officers and promote the war effort like America is really in a war. America's in a war with globalists that took it over, not against a bunch of jihadis the globalists run. Let me tell you, the troops don't like that, okay? They don't like it. I know them. But let me just get something straight to everybody. The New World Order hates the military, and they hate conservatives and libertarians and constitutionalists, and all their manuals show that we broke, that the media admits are real. And the military's depressed training for urban warfare. They're depressed training to put political dissidents in jail. They're depressed training for re-education camps, declassified in America. You'd think that'd be big news. 3 months later, they hadn't been in any mainstream news. You think that the media would be forced to cover something like that. So let's get something straight. Our government, for at least 70 years, has tested on our troops and killed them in countless declassified studies. Radiation, biologicals, chems, everything. Again, my dad told the story. He was asking a professor at UT in biology, well, why don't they use pigs and monkeys for these nuclear tests? Why do they use soldiers? And the professor looked at him and said, because soldiers are cheaper than pigs and monkeys. The globalists are bound in one thing. They look at all of us as dumb, pathetic animals, as cattle, as scum, as meat on the table to be eaten. They are a culture across the board. The Chinese elite, the European elite, the North American elite, African elite, Latin American elite, Jewish elite, Japanese elite. They're all the same. They compete with each other over who's the most ruthless. That's what Machiavelli is all about. And when you sit here like a naive child, or people almost think it's a form of hospitality to be chumps. That it's a form of hospitality to be run over, to be abused, to be used. They think it's cute. They think it's cool. They think it's fun because they're delusional. People think that if they imagine something, it's not like what is, but what is public opinion. It's not like what is the right thing to do. It's like what are other people doing? And once you get into that pack mode of like lemmings going off the edge of a cliff, and we're a higher order of life, folks, than lemmings and sheep. I've watched it myself. I'll be going to an airport and opt out of the scanner, and 20 people behind me will opt out. But if I sit there and watch and nobody's opting out, nobody opts out. I mean, that's scary, folks, that you can opt out, then everybody behind you is going to opt out. By the way, they'd have to stop the whole line if everybody opted out. That's why when we were going to have National Opt-Out Day, they shut it down for a week and searched nobody, because they didn't want you to see the power you had. Do we have that clip ready? Here's a clip. Is it Bugs Life or Ants? I forget the name. Ants. I mean, they know what they're doing. So let's get this straight. The people running things are eugenicists, which is a scientific amalgamation of basically a psychopathic religion. This is really a religion, that they're the elite God class who will ascend and get all the high tech, and we're animals who are too dumb and we're going to be killed. That is the heart of the New World Order. That is what the New World Order stands for. That's what the New World Order is. And people are like, oh, just be positive about it. It'll be okay. No, the whole thing is sinister. The whole thing is abusive. The whole thing is evil. Evil, evil, evil people, wicked beyond imagination, are in control. And there's still a lot of good people. We still have our basic morals that torture is wrong, secret arrest is wrong, warrantless wiretapping is wrong. But you notice the system just keeps promoting it like it's good and putting heroes on TV that do it so that their own minions will then carry it out. It doesn't matter if they commit suicide down the road because you give them drugs that make them commit suicide. They know what they're doing. They're fully aware of what they're doing. And now they're coming out with nasal sprays with these hardcore chemicals that basically mind wipe the troops. They're giving them amnesics. They're giving them amphetamines. They're giving them everything. And, of course, it's only going to make the suicide worse. But now they're trying to absolutely end free will, and they just roll out and say, you don't expect if they're going to inject you with a virus or even spray it on you. They want people to opt in first to be able to study them. See, they're setting the precedent where they can give us drugs and things that openly kill us, and then nobody gets in trouble. Oh, we gave millions of hemophiliacs a drug that we knew had HIV and hepatitis in it. Big deal, nobody gets in trouble. Oh, big deal. And now they come out and go, we got an anti-stress vaccine. You'll never be upset again. Yeah, because you're going to be an emotionalist zombie. But they just report it like it's, oh, look, we got a new shot. You'll never be depressed again. They're already testing this on the troops. I've confirmed it. People are coming home, folks, and they do whatever their wife tells them. They don't have fun at the football game anymore. They're not even human anymore. They just sit there and, Bob, go mow the yard. Yes, ma'am. Bob, stick your hand in the light switch. Well, there's a new demonization effort out, all part of the larger flipping the script from Al-Qaeda is going to get you, so we've got to take all your rights to. Oh, guess what? This whole Homeland Security architecture was set up for veterans, gun owners, libertarians, conservatives, and people that don't like the new global government. That's right, it does exist. After they told us it didn't, and now it does, and now we're going to arrest you if you don't like it. And we're going to shut off your power plants, Agenda 21, and we're going to take over, and we're going to grab your 10-year-olds and teach them how to be perverts in the public schools, and we're going to take your kids for abortions without parental consent and give them vaccines without it, even though that's illegal, because we're the big, fat, criminal government that took over. And now Kurt Nimmo has the article, Government Hypes White Supremacist Racial Holy War in Effort to Demonize Veterans. That's right. The veterans are going to start a holy racial war. And you saw the last Army report they're giving the troops that the Tea Party is working with Al-Qaeda. Yes, yes. The Tea Party is going to link up with Al-Qaeda. Oh, yes. So you better go after them, police. And then, of course, the Tea Party will start not liking police, and they happen to be gun owners, and so there'll be confrontations. And voila! See, I told you when all this was being planned in secret, this was coming. I said they would say, Tea Party works with Al-Qaeda. I told you that 4 years ago. The Tea Party first started. And you now see it. Mainstream news. And I remember seeing the internal TSA training videos, Homeland Security videos we were sent. We showed them here on air. And it was all, white people are the terrorists. They will be attacking. They're the type that believe in rural rights and the Second Amendment. They want to kill you, officers. The police, you know you've all been getting this, and now there's the public rollout, which means they're getting ready to go operational. Releasing people out of their psychiatric wards, wound up. I always call them wind-up toys, these guys they mind control, and then roll out to do a mass shooting. They even call them wind-up toys in the Bourne Legacy. I tell you, that movie, and that screenwriter just is unbelievable. Because that's real, folks. Wow. Oh, but again, I mentioned this earlier. I told you this was coming. This is out of Reuters. They want to make you start having all the new cars with robots that watch you and listen to you inside the dash, and a camera hooked up to the police. Toyota said this about 7 years ago, but now it's coming. And then they track you by the mile and tax you, but for your safety, you can hit a button. It's like OnStar, basically mandatory for everybody. Government Star, because I guess it is government motors. And they admit the FBI listens to you without warrants, but it's fine. And then it will actually shout orders or then take control of the car because they're proving, they say, as I told you they would do, the Google cars are safer. So see, you can't drive, it's public safety. But you can pay extra insurance and maybe drive for now. And all the new tech, as the CIA director told you, has stuff wired into it, watching you, tracking you. Smart meters, they now admit, interfacing with the stuff in your house, all spying on you, all criminal, all seamlessly integrated by the Fortune 100 who openly meet at Bilderberg and openly are announcing world government and that they run Al-Qaeda in the CFR magazine last week, 2 weeks ago. I mean, it's just all in your face, world government, total insanity. Dan Badandi, working as one of the radio producers and video switchers in there, doing an excellent job, along with John Bound, Chris Alanese, and others. He just ran in with this. He said, yeah, it's all over the place. Look, vets feel abandoned after secret drug experiments. Oh, CNN. Now they just don't make them secret. Oh, they have a new nasal spray that wipes their conscience, and it helps them kill better, and then they give them an amnesic because they admit they go to villages and kill everyone. That's been in the Ithaca Times, Fox News. They say that's a good thing. But the troops don't feel good, even though they were told it was good. Doesn't matter. They've got a cocktail of several drugs, one of them Halcyon. That's the name I can remember. It's the drug they give you where it's partial sedation, where they give it to you and rip your wisdom teeth out, and you don't even remember it. You can tell somebody on Halcyon, hey, go to your house and give me your money. It's basically like devil's breath. Oh, jump off the cliff. Yeah. My dad's a dentist. I've seen people assisting him doing wisdom teeth. I used to be a dental assistant like 20 years ago, right out of high school for a couple of years. And I've seen it. People on Halcyon don't even know who they are. Well, the troops, yeah, you just killed a bunch of people. We're going to give you 3 times the regular dose and go in there. We're going to do some diagnostics. You know what they do? While they're on the Halcyon, they give them an electroshock. They have mobile field units. This will be, the NSA is going to be freaking. I've talked to 2 separate Special Forces operators who had their memories wiped after they were given Halcyon and then shocked, but then some of the technicians told them about it. Oh, yeah. Nothing like running blue lightning across the frontal lobe of the troops. And then they're a little depressed when their IQ goes down. We'll just put you on Prozac that makes you commit suicide. Yeah. That's how you support the troops. That's right. The government wouldn't hurt us. They wouldn't do 9/11. They just killed 4,000 plus U.S. foster children in radiation experiments. It's on the Department of Energy's website, but they wouldn't hurt us. Yeah, words are very unnecessary. We know we're living in tyranny. A couple other news items here that I wanted to hit. And when I see an article like this is how my brain works, I remember the connections to it. Because they always come out and announce these tyrannies like it was just invented. Like, we're the first to have special forces run checkpoints in our town. You mean the first of 10,000 that have already been had it done? This is out of Dartmouth newspaper. Dartmouth researchers developed smart bracelets to track people's medical and brain waves and everything. Well, yeah, and then we happen to have the backstory. Bill Gates' magic boredom measuring bracelets. They want for public school children to track their heart rate, brain rate, and everything else so teachers can know if they're paying attention. This is all part of the medicalization, mind control takeover. This guy is over researching the GMO at Monsanto he owns part of, on how to engineer GMO to create gut problems. Then he dominates creating cures for the gut problems, all the gut flora problems that GMO is causing. He's also involved in weather weapons. He gets tax money, and then he runs the companies that do it. You can just look up, they just dumped a bunch of sulfur dioxide on New Mexico in one of his big studies. I mean, this is a lunatic control freak. So I thought I would just mention that. And again, U.S. testing talking cars to avoid crashes and congestion. What they are is cars that surveil you with the police, tracking you and taxing you and taking control of your car. That's where everything's moving. And now there it is in Reuters. Here's another one. Robot to throw the first pitch at Detroit Tigers game. We're not against technology. But the problem here is that it's all being backdoor engineered with Trojan horses to control us. They're now coming out with synthetic ground police robots. They'll follow orders. They'll kill unarmed people. They're coming out with autonomous drones that humans don't control, that the globalists can program. They've said at MIT and DARPA, the globalists that run our country, that this is what they want. Humans out of the equation. Bill Joy said 12 years ago, he said, owner of Sun Microsystems. He said, I was at a meeting with 200 top tech people and owners, billionaires, and we discussed, do we kill everybody? Or do we just let them kind of play games and have fun and let robots run everything? And the consensus was, we're probably just going to kill everybody. And then he quotes the Unabomber who'd been in CIA mind control. That's LA Times. Theodore Kaczynski was in the MK Ultra program. This stuff's real. And he starts quoting him. That's why Kaczynski went wild and was actually in his writings saying this was all coming. I mean, this is the big enchilada. This is the big issue. Now, shifting gears, we have the executive director of Channel Austin, what has been Access Television in Austin, Linda Litowsky, who I've known, I don't know, for about a decade or so, for the 40th anniversary of Access Television. And Access began in Austin, Texas. So this is important everywhere. We'll give you a few tips here on air. I started out in 1995 going and taking the classes and stuff. Got on air in I guess, because I was only on to the people's shows until 96 as a producer in 96. 6 months later, got a radio show. A year later, got syndicated. But I stayed still on Access till about 6, 7 years ago. I'd go down there some, but 20, 30 fans would show up, and so I just couldn't be there anymore. But we use it as a studio sometime. Great folks. But even though I was pretty much gone 7, 8 years ago, I discovered, I'm going to talk about this first, Linda, I discovered, because she hadn't been there in years, she'd been there early on, that there was fraud going on. They were bringing in enough money to run it, but claiming they were going to shut it down, basically with operatives in government and media that wanted it gone. And I basically ran an investigation on them, recorded them, did some stuff, and we sent the director to prison. But it went a lot higher than that, but the investigation got killed because it was city-run. Now, Linda, came in, cleaned the whole thing up, stopped the violation of our First Amendment and all the things that were going on. It was pretty darn sordid. They're trying to get rid of it now, basically, but I wanted to advertise that if you want to go somewhere and immediately air documentaries, clips of things, do your own show, don't want to be on there, just put an image up, talk over it, get down there. Austin Access has hundreds of thousands of viewers in the aggregate. You do a show once, it'll air 10 times or so after. We take our nightly news show, and John Bound takes it down there as a producer and puts it on as a service to Austin. Huge viewership. You need to get down there because the more members it has, they try to run everybody off, but Linda helped keep it together. The plan was to basically shut it down. From our analysis, from our research, that's what it looked like was happening. But just recap for folks, how many years ago was that I hired the private investigator and snuck around and caught him?
I believe it started in 2004, and he went on trial 2006. The city audit department ran an investigation based on what you uncovered.
And they found, how many hundreds of thousands was it missing?
$352,000 he stole.
Convicted of that?
He was convicted of that, 7 years to Huntsville prison, but he only served 15 months.
Huntsville, that's an enjoyable prison in East Texas.
Exactly.
No air conditioning.
Most of the time.
Yeah, but...
it was a severe sentence for a white-collar crime, but he was not ordered to pay any restitution, even though this was funds for the community. He paid nothing in restitution.
Well, you know why? Because, the word is, our research shows it was not just him that was involved.
That's true. The focus of the investigation was on him as that he acted alone, even though there was a lot of speculation that some board members were in on this as well.
Well, it wasn't just that. It went into the city, and that's why they killed it real quick. And then once they can say he's an ex-con, then they can try to discredit everything. But it was pretty amazing. He actually, at a telecommunications meeting, came up to me and threatened me. And I said, look what I do to the government every day, buddy. You think that's going to work? I said, now I'm coming after you. And that's when I actually pulled the trigger and really focused on him. Yes. I was like, you're going to threaten me?
I think without you, Alex, he never would have come down. They never would have brought him down. And I don't believe that the city would have conducted such an in-depth investigation through the audit.
Well, I just want to say, people always think these bullies are invincible until you actually confront them. It's like Fast and Furious or anything. We just got to keep pushing. Yeah. But he told me, he said, I will kill you. And I said, well, go ahead and try. And I said, that's it. Now I'm going to get you.
He was an ex-Marine and a bookkeeper, and it was kind of an unusual circumstance that he was actually running the place.
But see, I use violence of InfoWar, and I told him, I said, now I'm coming after you.
And you did. You went before City Council, you went before the Telecommunications Commission, and you made it public. You brought it into the light, and I think people were, I guess it was your power or your...
Well, it's not even that. It's just the power of light on it.
You know, it was your celebrity, your notoriety, your reputation. All of those things added up to make it happen. That's.
I didn't really follow. He pled guilty, didn't he? Finally.
No, I don't believe he did.
I was just going from memory.
Yeah, he showed no remorse whatsoever when he was called to testify. There was a number of us there in the courtroom. He did not ever say he was sorry. He never offered to pay anything back. He used most of the money for like University of Texas football tickets. He flew to all the away games. He had cable. He bought a house and I mean, all sorts of stuff. So it was kind of a sad circumstance that you're operating this nonprofit corporation that's, you know, helping hundreds, if not thousands of people in the community, and then you're stealing from it. That was just sad.
You know, when he came out in the hall that day, there were even a few people behind him, and I made a big issue out of it. It was kind of like when Lionel Chetwynd, who was in the Bush administration, came in a bathroom in Hollywood before he went on the conspiracy theory show and Conspiracy Zone with Kevin Nealon, and he said, "We're going to get you. We're going to, you know, take you out." And I said, "You're an idiot. People behind you just heard that." And he went, "Oh, I'm just joking. I'm just joking." And his lawyers threatened me, and I said, "I've got witnesses. I've got the workers from the show coming in to get us to go on TV." So they had to back off. But that was pretty funny. I mean, that's what these guys do. It's like they don't understand this goes two ways, you know.
That's right.
I mean, you know, I guess they're just used to the general public. I wish the public wasn't like that. When someone threatens them, they just cower down to it. I immediately just run around like a chicken with my head cut off. But enough about that. The point is, we fought, you fought. That's now 8 years ago. Hard to believe.
Yeah.
Or let me see, 7.5 years ago. So I was right, 7.5 years ago. Hard to believe time has moved that fast. They're using other strategies. I know Time Warner, even recently has tried to get my shows off the air. You know, I'm mad about things. But, I mean, you told me about that off air, so we could talk about it, but, I mean, there's no point. Everybody should use Access all over the country. Tell people where Access is today and where some of the best spots in the country are and how easy it is to get on air.
The very best spot in the whole country is Austin, Texas. And you're right. We have the longest continually running public access channel in the universe. It's where Robert Rodriguez got started with
Rick Linklater
and Alex Jones, as well as thousands of other people. We're in the tens of thousands now of folks who've used it over 40 years. There's also Manhattan has a really strong access center, but over 60 public access stations in the state of California have closed their doors, and in Texas, Dallas closed their doors because of a lack of information in a federal law. So basically, there's no more support for operations any longer. That the public access, the nonprofit...
And to be clear, if the cable was given a monopoly in the past,
right,
a few cents out of the bill would go to give citizens an electronic soapbox.
Exactly,
and,
that's true.
And C-SPAN came out of that so much more. That's all going the way of the Goonie Bird.
Because of AT&T. They did not, when they decided to go into the video service, they did not want to have to go and negotiate with each individual municipality.
And without making you enemies, I mean, even recently, they're like, we don't like that. You know, he's got a show already, and it's commercial that he's on Access. Well, yeah, but it's my show. We cut out the ads, my information on Access.
That's right.
But, I mean, the point is all over the country they don't want me on.
It's the thing about public access that's so critical is, one, it's not mainstream media. You have the First Amendment right to free speech, Alex, and you should be able to say whatever you want. As long as you don't break any federal, state, or local
laws. As long as you don't have a call to action to kill somebody, or if you say, hey, you know, come by my car at this address.
Exactly. Or you don't libel or slander anyone that's proven. Or you don't put anything obscene on the air.
And that have to be adjudicated other than the obscene, because we have standards for that. Yes. Let's expand on that then. Tell us the number, the phone number, how easy it is to go down there and get a producer license.
The very best way is to go to our website, which is channelaustin.org. You can sign up as a user and then come to our intro session, which is an orientation we have every Monday night at 7 p.m., except holidays, and now the first Saturday of every month at 11 a.m. It lasts about an hour, and then you can learn everything you need to know about how to take the training, how to get certified in the use of millions of dollars worth of equipment you can use absolutely free of charge and borrow it as long as you put the content on the air first, and then you could do it.
It's amazing. It's amazing. And I want all the Austin Info Warriors to go down there, because they're going to try to shut it down next year. We need to get a bunch of new blood in there, because that's what's kept it alive. And again, I wish that, I know Rick Linklater's a great guy. Rodriguez is, I guess, an okay guy. Doesn't like me too much. But the point is, you know, folks like that, I think they should come to the support of Access because it helped give them a launch pad. What about other people that need a launch pad? But not just a launch pad for media, for free speech. Everybody should use this 40-year venue.
Exactly.
But I think it's funny that the year that the city's trying to shut it down is the year it turns 40.
Yeah.
And there's some kind of magic about that. People aren't going to want to shut it down.
That's correct. It's unfortunate because all these years everyone said, oh, taxpayer dollars are going for these crazy people on this channel. Why do my taxpayer dollars have to pay for this? And all these years that was absolutely not true. Now we have to focus on how we can have sustainable funding to stay alive, to at least have folks there to help you out, to offer classes, and to bring in other nonprofits that need a platform. Have access to a hyper-local distribution on the channel. So we always see it as something that's about your community, by your community, and for your community.
Sure, and most people that are trying to put stuff on YouTube, they're getting a few thousand views. Right. I remember more than a decade ago, they actually did a Time Warner thing. I saw it in the Chronicle, and it was showing numbers. And the one reason they were getting upset about my show that I was doing...
Huge numbers.
Well, yeah, because I had a radio and I was talking about the Access show as well. It had sometimes over 100,000 viewers. Yeah. And in Austin, that was really freaking people out. Yeah. And that was kind of in the heyday of Access. But it still has a big audience because people are surfing through. And if it's, you know, some preacher with bad audio, people just go right through. But if you're there talking about issues, you can, and again, there's all sorts of Access facilities around the country. Yeah. You can shoot the video at home, edit it at home, just go play it there. Because it's a venue to reach people that aren't getting their news online, but it's also a way to breathe life into Access television.
Exactly. And we also, now we stream 24/7. So it's not just your local community, but an international community. And the thing about you, Alex, is to try and prove a point, you were on in Lakeway. On Time Warner Cable in Lakeway. When they took away public access, the channels in Lakeway, we had 200 phone calls in the first hour that your show did not air that day. And so that gives, to receive that many phone calls flooding the lines is unbelievable. That's when we knew that people were watching public access because of your show and the fact that they took it off the air.
Yeah, and that's just a tiny community outside Austin.
Tiny.
Access used to go into a bunch of communities around us, yes. but it's just in Austin now, but Austin's gotten so much bigger. So it's still a huge audience.
That's correct.
Well, so tell us, what's the numbers? What's the scoop? 40 years, they're shutting them down everywhere. Yes. Just having a constituency is what keeps them on. What else can we do to keep Austin Access and others on?
We have a lot of events planned for this year that in Austin. So for your listeners, the folks in Austin, we definitely need support there. For nationally, we need support from both sides of the aisle to support what's called the CAP Act, which is the Community Access Preservation Act, which we have a bunch of Democrats who have put forward the bill, sponsored the bill, but we only have one.
An occasional good thing they've done. That's good.
That's correct. But it would change 3 words in a federal law that would allow for operation funds. So let me just give you an idea in Austin, Texas. There is $1.2 to $1.8 million a year available through the video providers for use for capital expenditures, but 0 for operations. So if 3 words in the national law was changed to read any funds could be used for any purpose, then we would have absolutely the money needed, as would every other access station in the country.
Well, and I think Access, if they have to, you've done a lot of things trying to open it up, getting the streaming on the web, a lot of other community partnership. You tried to get those so-called low-watt FMs when the court was saying, hey, you can't have community radio. Yeah. They said, okay, we'll give out some little licenses, but they never really gave those out.
That's correct.
Imagine if you guys had a 100-watt FM. For real community radio as well.
And we are looking at that, actually. Prometheus Radio is saying that they're out of Philadelphia, and they help nonprofit organizations raise the antenna. And they are supposed to be releasing some more low-powered licenses.
But instead, they gave them all as repeaters to yes. commercial stations.
That's true. But there are a few left in our zip code. Yeah. So we are looking at that.
And again, I'm not against commercial stations getting they're an AM, getting an FM, but those were slotted for community stations.
That's correct.
My problem is they'll end up just being communist stations stations. Most community ones turn out to be just communist Ford Foundation stations. What we need is real access radio stations where it's whoever. I mean, that's what we need is whoever. And you watch, those stations will dominate. We'll be back. Litowsky is our guest, and we're talking about, well, my roots, where I came from, Access Television. Incredible venue. And even if you're in a small town, there's maybe 5,000 subscribers. Let me tell you, if you've got energy, I see so many people who even have radio shows. They'll go to an Access show. They go, oh, it's this Access. They have low energy. You get out of something what you give. And I'm telling you, Access Television is an amazing venue. Use it today. Again, give us the website and the phone number if people want to go get involved.
It's channelaustin.org, and our phone number is 512-478-8600. My extension is 18, and you're welcome to call me.
And what we need is hundreds of people to come down there, sign up, and you can just pay a basic fee and then submit your stuff, or take a few classes that are a few nights, and then get the equipment, use the computers. You want to talk about getting in media? So many parents are spending $100,000 to send their kids to UT.
Exactly.
And then you get out, you're not getting an RTF job probably, okay? You're not, I mean, you've got a snowball's chance and you know where. But I'm telling you, if you want to get into newspapers, get a job at a newspaper. You want to get into TV, get a job, go to an Access show. You want a radio show, go volunteer. Or go pay for an hour if you think you've got it. And they'll start saying, oh, we'll pay you. Let me tell you, they're looking for talent. And the message of liberty is popular.
Yes.
So the journey of 1,000 miles starts with a single step, and here I am 17 years later. Folks, don't forget, we printed 70,000 of these, 50,000 at the streets of Austin, 20,000 were to be shipped out at cost if you buy them at InfoWarsShop.com, the new InfoWars magazine. Guess what? We already sold out 20,000 copies in less than a day. We're reprinting more today. 20,000 one day, bam. Available, InfoWarsShop.com in groups of 10 up to 100 at cost, InfoWarsShop.com. And lastly, on that point, you can also call 888-253-3139. You can get a free copy by signing up right now. We're going to send it out 10 minutes after the show today, then a few days later in case you didn't sign up. But we're going to send it out in about 10 minutes, 10, 15 minutes from now, Infowars.com/newsletter. Just put your email address in and a digital copy with a lot of exclusive content and key stories. Boom. Incredible graphics right to you to then send to your email list. Infowars.com/newsletter right now. Lyndon Litowsky, any closing comments? I know you're going to interview me real quick after the show for a documentary you're making. Tell us about that.
Documentary is called Access This with an Attitude. It's all about the history of public access in Austin since 1973, and includes folks like you who got started there, who gave us an amazing stories about our community and had a voice in free speech.
Now, tell us briefly, what is the time frame? I mean, it's going to start shutting down, what, in about 6-8 months if you don't get support and funds?
Actually, we have about a year left, and then we're under a contract with the city that's year by year. So this next year, from October through September, we're probably okay. After that, it's very bleak.
So what have you got a couple thousand members paying their $100 and something bucks a year? Would that help?
Yeah, that would help tremendously. It's to show that we are relevant and valuable to our community. It would help tremendously.
Well, it's just such a zombie culture where everybody's running around trying to be trendy. People will come here for South by Southwest to be ripped off. The whole thing's a giant scam. Not against it. It's just the whole thing is a big joke. It's like selling dreams. They get here. Bands pay to play to 200 people. The record companies already have their people here playing. It's not what it was 15 years ago. You pay all this money, and then nothing happens. Meanwhile, there's a place with thousands of viewers every hour just waiting for you. Just waiting for you to go put your music videos on. I mean, again, it's this zombie culture where people just don't know where the real opportunities are.
You're right. Thank you.
All right, Linda, we're going to end this transmission right here. Go to that interview with you. Folks, we've got to pray for our veterans because even though these wars are evil, they're being used up and having drugs tested on. Their suicides are off the chart. I covered that earlier. Going to do a report on the Nightly News. More on that. You're going to see hosting part of the Nightly News tonight, Jakari Jackson, one of our new reporters. And tomorrow night, I'm going to interview Dan Badandi. We couldn't do it without you. I love you all.